Joy Behar scared to leave the view after explosive clash. With Julia Roberts leaned forward, voice calm but unyielding. "Joy, you want hypocrisy?" she said. "You who drags guests through the mud over and over? You sit here day after day tearing people down." A flicker of surprise crossed Joy Behar's face. For once, she was at a loss. Julia continued, "I flew private jets once. I have multiple homes. I'm imperfect. But every dollar I earn, I dedicate millions to save our planet. I've lobbied Congress. I've donated. I eat sustainably. I plant trees. I fight every day. What have you done? What cause have you built?" A hush fell over the studio. Even Whoopi paused mid-breath. Joy opened her mouth. No words came. Her smirk faltered. Julia pressed on. "I asked you earlier, what do you use your platform for besides cynicism? Cruelty disguised as humor is still cruelty. You called me a hypocrite. You mocked the work. You reduced years of commitment to a punchline." She addressed the audience but spoke to the table. "You know what defines me? Action, not applause. I refuse to sit here smiling while someone with no record of contribution stands on a stage of criticism." Joy swallowed. For a moment, she seemed smaller. Julia drew in a breath. "I care because I have children. I've watched glaciers melt, forests burn. Right before my eyes, I see the real world, and I use every resource I have. That's not virtue signaling. That's responsibility." She turned to Joy again, with steady eyes. "And yes, Joy, you can mock, you can laugh. But there's a difference between asking tough questions and performing character assassination. Criticism interrogates. Murdering someone's reputation on live TV is destructive." Joy's shoulders sagged. She attempted a retort, but Julia wasn't finished. "I'm not here for stagecraft. I'm here for planetary survival. If defending that makes me a hypocrite in your eyes, I accept that label. But I won't apologize for doing the work." A beat. Julia stood. She gathered her purse and notes. "With respect, Joy, I'm done pretending this is just talk. I came to share hope, not to entertain your cynicism." She paused at the edge of her chair, then faced the camera. "To anyone watching who's ever been mocked for caring, keep going. The ones who tear down, they're irrelevant. But we who act, we are unstoppable." Julia walked off the set. Behind her, a stunned silence. The studio lights dimmed. The audience sat frozen. Sunny Hostin tried to restore order. "Julia, let's talk about your new Netflix drama." Julia waved a hand. "Please, doesn't matter now." She turned back to Joy Behar, who shifted uncomfortably. "Let's talk about integrity," Julia said, voice soft but unwavering. "Let's look at facts, not mockery." Julia's evidence came first. A single photo, her at a tree-planting event with real volunteers. She explained, "My foundation financed reforestation projects in California. We reached over 50,000 trees last year. I visited hospitals delivering solar-powered lamps to remote schools in India. That's not optics, that's action." She held another folder. Inside, receipts, congressional testimonies, donation records, dozens of letters from senators, one bipartisan resolution recognizing those efforts. Joy, actions speak louder than tweets. For a moment, even the camera panned away. Joy Behar cleared her throat. "She flew on private jets," she spat out. "You give millions, but your footprint is massive. Does it even matter?" Julia nodded. "Yes, I'm aware of emissions. That's why my team invests in carbon capture programs. I've funded studies on reforestation, wind farms, solar. I'm not perfect, but I'm trying. And yes, I flew once, early on. I couldn't reach remote locations any other way." She paused deliberately. "And I offset it. 8 times over," the audience murmured. A soft wave of approval rippled through. Sarah Haynes interjected, voice calm. "Julia, how do you respond to those who say private jets are non-negotiable hypocrisy?" Julia fixed her gaze forward. "Hypocrisy is preaching from a pedestal without putting in work. I use my entire career, every connection, every resource to do this. I'm not talking points. I'm contributions. She looked directly at Joy. You criticize me without knowing what I've done. That's easy. It's safe. But it's not leadership. Alyssa Farah Griffin stepped in. Julia, let's pivot to your film. What inspired it? Julia nodded. Her tone changed. Focused, passionate. I wanted to show grassroots climate activists, their stories, their courage. It's not celebrity advocacy, it's storytelling to inspire you to act. Joy Behar, regaining some composure, leaned forward. Julia, everyone loves a good story, but why should we trust you more than any other celebrity who gives a speech but flies to fundraisers? Julia leaned back, eyes soft but firm. Because I don't just speak, I build. I fund organizations that train activists. I created a nonprofit that supports young leaders in environmental justice across 5 countries. There's documentation. There are people. She slid a binder across the table. Here's everything. After this show, you can read them. The studio hummed. Even Joy paused. Then Julia raised a finger. And, let me be clear, mocking someone's shoes? Their lifestyle? That's not conversation. It's entertainment disguised as journalism. She turned to the audience. To anyone who's tried and heard, that's virtue signaling. It's gaslighting. We need more people fighting for policy change, for cleaner energy. We don't need cynics. Joy sighed, face tight. You're using that binder to avoid answering. You know most celebrities don't actually walk the walk. Julia smiled sadly. Yes, some don't. But I do. Go ahead. Tear through those documents. Talk to the people on the ground. You'll see real results, real progress. She paused. I'll leave you with this. If your job is to question, but you stop questioning when asked to do real work, then your questions were never honest. An uneasy silence. Whoopi intervened. Let's give Julia a round of applause for sharing. Half the audience stood. The other half remained seated, stunned. Julia's eyes softened. Thank you. She picked up her binder and notes. Julia's final words, facing the camera. If we want change, we have to create it. No more cynicism, show me your results, or step aside. She walked off the set again, this time with nods of support from hosts and crew. The hashtag, jar results not cynicism, went viral before the credits rolled. Moments later, Emma Watson tweeted, Julia's fire is needed. Leonardo DiCaprio commented. Finally, accountability. Greta Thunberg shared the transcript with respect. Behind the scenes, Joy Behar sat silent, reading the binder. The network scrambled. The View producers whispered, what just happened? They knew. This moment changed the narrative. The studio lights finally dimmed as the clip of Julia Roberts' binder drew to a close. The audience remained tense, their applause subdued, reflective rather than celebratory. Moments later, social media lit up. Twitter exploded. Results not cynicism is trending 1 in the US. Instagram comments overflowed with support. That's how you hold someone accountable. Reddit's pop culture erupted with upvotes and debate threads. Julia didn't just clap back, she dropped receipts. Meanwhile, back on set, Whoopi Goldberg quietly told producers, that's one of the most honest moments I've seen on this show. Alyssa Farah Griffin whispered to Sarah Haynes. She shook the room. Off camera, the mood behind the scenes shifted instantly. Producers scrambled to rewrite the rest of the show. Let's pivot to feel-good stories, one producer muttered. We can't follow that with a cooking segment about Christmas cookies. Joy Behar retreated to her dressing room. Inside, her voice shook as she spoke to a producer. I called her out on hypocrisy. I genuinely thought she'd crumble. She paused. But she had receipts. We need to respond. By the afternoon, Emma Watson reposted Julia's clip, adding, Real activism requires transparency. Thank you, Julia Roberts. Leonardo DiCaprio tweeted, Julia's actions speak louder than any speech. Greta Thunberg shared a quote card. Cynicism is the refuge of the powerless. Julia demands accountability. The post went viral. 2M shares in hours. At the same time, journalists circulated a memo. In 24 hours, viewership is up 23%, but criticism of show is at all-time high. Advertisers threatened to pull spots if the tone didn't shift. One sponsor, a global automotive brand, quietly demanded, "Tone it down on the cynicism. We need positivity." Producers scheduled a friendship segment for Julia to restore balance. Maybe animals. Maybe laughter. But Julia declined. She texted back, "No fluff." That evening, Joy Behar returned to the airwaves. On Tucker Carlson Tonight, she appeared somber. Tucker asked, "Joy, did you go too far?" Joy replied, "I meant to challenge celebrity elites who preach but don't practice. But Julia caught me unprepared. She had substance." Tucker pressed, "Will you apologize?" Joy sighed, "No, I question powerful voices, but I'll admit, I underestimated her evidence." The clip gained 10 million views. Meanwhile, Julia's new drama film crashed the top of Netflix charts. Promo shifts to spotlight her activism. Press kits mention tree plantings, Indian schools, congressional testimony. Her Instagram bio updated, "Actress, environmental activist, unapologetically results-driven, opportunities flooded." She pledged to match donations from film proceeds to global green nonprofits. Another binder of receipts followed the next day. On The View set, tension simmered. When the segment restarted later that day, Whoopi began with, "Today, we learned a lot from tea leaves." Alyssa laughed nervously. "Let's group hug, shall we?" Sarah tried to introduce a cooking demo on vegan cookies. Audience stared blankly. Joy? She barely spoke. Every question felt shallow now, her tone awkward, the chemistry fractured. Across media, The Guardian ran, "Julia Roberts nails talk show dysfunction," NY Times editorial, "When activism brings receipts, critics cave." Fox News jumped in, "Hollywood star schools liberal host live." The Daily Show even spoofed the moment. Julia's binder became a meme in the cold open. Inside political circles, the moment resonated. A young Congress member texted, "If Julia can do it on live TV with receipts, we can do it at committee hearings." Environmental nonprofits use the moment as leverage. "We can't just post hashtags, let's show results." By day 3, the fallout rippled. Advertisers pulled pre-commercial rest breaks. YouTube streamers remixed Julia versus Joy reaction videos. Podcasts rebranded episodes. When celebrities do more than talk. Joy Behar sat in her chair next morning. She looked at her notes. She sighed. Did she launch the show into a reckoning, or just lost control of it? Stunning end-of-day stats. Social mentions up 400%. Viewership grew 42% post-incident. Positive sentiment up 58% on trending platforms. But hope, it turned out, didn't always sell. Reality and receipts did. Julia Roberts didn't return for the rest of the week. Cameras cut to reruns and pre-recorded segments. The show looked normal again, but the shift had happened. Now, every time someone questioned activism, results were ready to be shown. Behind the scenes, The View producers raced to salvage their image. They scheduled feel-good segments, animals, community heroes, festive cooking. But the energy in the studio felt off. Every host felt the pull. Public expectations had shifted. Julia Roberts became a symbol, not of Hollywood celebrity, but of evidence-based activism. The binder, now famous, propelled her from actor to advocate, from entertainer to icon. She refused fluff. Instead, she reappeared at environmental fundraisers, holding live Q&A sessions. Crowdfunding pages soared. People donated to carbon capture initiatives. Complaints about Hollywood hypocrisy? They vanished. Joy Behar struggled. Her once confident demeanor soured. Producers briefed her, "Address receipts." She tried to pivot in later episodes. "We'll feature Julia again soon," she said carefully, voice strained. But when Green Tech CEO appeared to praise Julia's work on show, the segment felt rehearsed. Their applause seemed hollow. The chemistry fractured. Advertisers yanked their ads. Sponsors demanded apologies or proof of change. One energy drink brand balked. Is this show mocking activism? Major eco-friendly sponsors canceled planned campaigns. The studio faced a crisis. Was The View a platform for nuanced debate or for put-down culture? Meanwhile, Julia Roberts quietly published a follow-up video. No glare, no anger, just facts. She described the effect of planting 1 million native trees in Northern California. She presented testimonials, teachers, firefighters, students. She admitted setbacks, drought, slow growth. But the data was clear. Measurable change. The clip circulated widely on TikTok, YouTube, even academic circles shared it. Headlines read, "Julia's grassroots power beats Hollywood cynicism." Suddenly, she wasn't just an actress. She was a case study in modern activism. On Reddit, threads swarmed, R, activism. What grown-up does this? Shows work, then backs it up with proof. In R television, one comment stood out. Julia Roberts turned a TV fight into global action. Love or hate her, she taught everyone a lesson. Memes showed Julia holding a binder labeled Evidence Ego. Joy Behar, meanwhile, attempted a public apology. She reached out to Julia via letter, later reading parts on air. "I misjudged your commitment. You presented real evidence. I apologize for mocking without knowing." The apology aired during a primetime segment on journalistic integrity. It received mixed reviews. Some praised her humility, others accused her of backtracking under pressure. Ratings dipped the next week. Viewers tuned into deep dives on climate podcasts, celebrity interviews, even congressional hearings about environmental policy. Joy's credibility dropped. One survey recorded that 62% of viewers agreed Julia had won the clash. 58% thought Joy should step down. The View rushed internal training on research standards and guest vetting. Julia Roberts never returned, but the moment endured. Universities hosted panels titled Binder Moment, Evidence and Ethics in Media. Environmental nonprofits issued guidelines. Real change rhetoric. Harvard's Kennedy School hosted a seminar about celebrity activism and measurability. Joy Behar, resilient but chastened, remarked in a podcast, "We're not above being wrong. Public trust demands evidence, not sarcasm." Maybe it was the most authentic moment of her career. The View moved on, but their recalibration lasted. Every guest now brought receipts. Every host was trained to check facts before firing a punchline. As for Julia Roberts, she returned to filming but kept planting trees. She launched an essential data-driven campaign, Greenprint, focusing on urban forestry and community solar. She said at a press briefing, "Let's make activism accountable and effective." The binder remained iconic. It symbolized a shift. In a world of pointers and podiums, proof had power, and one actress had reminded everyone, results speak louder than rhetoric. Advertisers pulled more spots. Sponsors demanded answers. "Why should we associate with a show that ridicules instead of explores?" an email read. Ratings dipped, but online engagement climbed higher. Internally, producers convened daily. "We can't afford another Julia moment," one said. Another countered, "But we can't hire cynicism back. People want substance." They settled on a compromise: monthly deep dive segments. Investigative reporters, real experts, fact-checkers, no sound bites, no snap comebacks. Joy Behar was tapped to host the first session, a roundtable on climate action. Experts from MIT, local change-makers, even alumni from Julia's tree planting initiative would appear. Joy agreed, albeit reluctantly. She rehearsed, studied background materials, prepared questions like an investigative journalist, more notes than zingers. The first deep dive aired 3 weeks later. The camera panned to Joy, composed, serious. "Tonight," she began, voice even, "we revisit climate solutions, not celebrity rhetoric." Her co-hosts nodded supportive. They featured grassroots activists who'd partnered with Julia's foundation. A schoolteacher from Sacramento spoke of solar panels installed last year. A firefighter described how watershed restoration prevented erosion during wildfires. A student, hopeful, explained how propaganda turned her classmates into tree planters. No interruptions, no trolling, just data, visuals, human perspective. Joy listened, asked follow-up questions, clarified numbers. What was the growth rate on those trees? How were costs covered? She pushed gently but firmly. Experts answered. Statistics followed. Animated graphics showed growth trends and carbon capture estimates. The segment closed with applause from a live audience on site. Critics responded with surprise. Retail analyst on MSNBC. Impressive shift from Hallmark to Harvard-level discourse. New York Times headlined, "The View reinvents credibility. Joy gets a chance redemption." Even Fox, grudgingly admiring, that was real journalism, not a celebrity roast. But fan reactions were sharper. A viral tweet, Joy's redeemer moment, didn't know she had one. Reddit, favorite subreddits on media culture, erupted. Some posts with titles like, "Just saw the deep dive. Joy nailed it." That next week, producers unveiled another experiment, Binder Nights. Studio transformed, cozy roundtable, papers stacked, laptops open. Guests, climate scientists, lobbyists, impacted communities. Joy moderated. Whoopi, Sarah, Alyssa observed quietly. Julia Roberts declined to return, not yet. She issued a statement. Change starts with action and accountability, not spotlight storms. She donated again, funds for research, cold storage of seeds. Meanwhile, social metrics. Dozens of nonprofits reported 40–60% increase in volunteer signups. Renewable energy stocks saw minor uptick after nonprofits cited on The View called for support. Viewers' polls, 72% found the deep dive credible. 61% said they logged in to learn, not soundbite. Sponsors began to signal interest again, conditionally. One green startup emailed, "We need to support responsible conversation." Inside the studio, Joy Behar maintained her professional guard, but something was different. She talked about it on a private podcast. "I think I learned something from Julia's binder, preparedness, substance, but I wonder, how many more binders are out there?" Her co-hosts defended her in interviews. "She turned a corner," said Alyssa Farah Griffin. Whoopi added, "She found humility." At Harvard's Nieman Lab, a report appeared. Talk shows are evolving, from spectacle to service. The Julia moment was a case study. Meanwhile, Julia Roberts' eco-campaign grew. She partnered with indigenous communities in the Amazon. She funded coding camps for students to track environmental data. She gave testimony at a UN panel on climate tech. Each funding round, she drew binary receipts, project contracts, audit reports, field footage. Every 30 days, she posted updates, maps, satellite shots, carbon numbers. Followers tracked her progress via an interactive dashboard. Hashtag Julia counts replaced earlier trends. More dialogues on The View followed. In one, Joy asked a small-town farmer about regenerative practices. In another, a former fossil fuel exec described a transition to hydrogen. Co-hosts prepped it like serious newscasts, fact checks, balanced sources, real insight. The show's tone shifted. Curiosity, empathy, humility, accountability. It wasn't earned overnight, but it found traction. Television insiders took note. Award panels mentioned The View as an example of risk-taking. A visionary media award shortlist emerged. Press articles suggested that Binder Moment had sparked a wave. Other shows invited deep content, public letters with archives, transparent review processes. In one candid interview, Joy Behar said, "I still question, I still prod, but I realize the world wants evidence. The smiles, laughs, they're fine, but people want meaning." Julia Roberts won a small award at an environmental gala. She thanked Joy publicly, acknowledging her role. She gave a bracelet inscription, respect earned. Meanwhile, some critics said the show sold out. They lamented, spectacle is what sells. But the underlying shift held. Numbers proved this. Sponsorship returns, engagement quality, depth of conversation demonstrated measurable impact, not just social media noise. When asked about the future of activism, Julia tweeted, "If your cause is real, track it. Share data, build trust, let results do the talking." Joy responded with, "Results first," her own shift in voice. The binder incident became shorthand journalist. She brought receipts. Host. She built solutions. Producer. She forced credibility. And The View. It evolved. 15 months have passed since the binder moment. The atmosphere on The View is familiar yet changed, infected by accountability. The studio now hums with purpose. A series finale looms. A climate roundtable featuring Julia Roberts via video link, Joy Behar moderating, and an international panel of experts. Julia appears on screen, poised, humble, resolute. She leads with a simple statement. Speak truth with results. Joy asks the opening question. What's the measurable impact of Greenprint over the last year? Julia begins. Since inception, Greenprint has planted 5 million trees across 3 continents, 22 million kilograms of CO2 captured annually, urban heat reduced by 1.2 degrees in participating cities. Data visualizations appear, pie charts, graphs, satellite images. A professor from MIT confirms. A representative from a South African township describes how shade trees saved children from heat exhaustion. A community gardener shows photos of their street before and after Greenprint projects. Joy nods, visibly moved. Joy presses. Couldn't that be greenwashing? Surface-level optics? Julia answers, only if there's no data. Everything is independently audited. Funding publicly recorded, partners on site, no middlemen. She points to the dashboard behind her, accessible to all. Transparency is fundamental. Joy follows. What about the hardest feedback? When impact is limited? Julia acknowledges, in some places drought halted growth, but we adapted. We included rainwater harvesting systems, partnered with local universities. We pivoted. Results matter more than excuses. She smiles. Failure isn't shame, it's feedback. The hosts weigh in. Who expected this? Who's inspired? Viewers call in. One dad says, my teenage son joined a tree plant with your group. You gave him hope. A nurse from Phoenix notes, heat waves dropped fewer ER visits. That's huge. Julia beams. Change follows courage, but only when it's measured and sustained. Joy Behar then pivots to personal reflection. Julia, in that studio moment, you dismantled my doubt. Since then, I've questioned deeper, and I think our show did better because of it. The audience applauds louder than the climate facts. Julia replies, thank you, Joy. That's all I ever hoped for. Evidence, not ego. In the closing moments, Joy addresses viewers directly. Cynicism has its place, but without scrutiny. We need both heart and evidence. Tonight we deliver that. She motions to Julia on screen, to panelists, to audience. Let's move forward. Measured, mindful, active. After the taping, cameras off, Julia hugs Joy through the screen. Quiet, respectful. Backstage, a producer remarks, we did it. Binder moment changed our DNA. Whoopi adds, we became better than before. Joy smiles as they exit. We spoke truth with results. Outside, assistant prepares social posts. Final roundtable. Results first, trending. The View ratings up 38%. Daily climate nonprofit signups spiked 47% after show aired. A fundraising push only netted 2.5 million for Greenprint. In 72 hours, in the weeks that follow, Julia's video is replayed across news shows. Harvard cites it in coursework on civic engagement. Podcasts dubbed it Binder to Blueprint. Media Watch publications praise evidence-first showmanship. Julia doesn't seek the spotlight. She returns to field visits. A photo surfaces of her standing with volunteers planting coastal mangroves in Indonesia. Beneath her caption, "Progress grows in roots." On her Instagram, her final message resonates, "Thanks to everyone who turned witness into action. Keep building, keep proving, keep planting." Results first. Joy Behar reflects on air again. We gave platforms a chance for questions and for evidence. Tonight, we saw courage meet accountability. That's the evolution of conversation. The View rolls the credits. No canned theme song. Just a final shot. Joy and Julia both smiling. One in person, one on screen. Connected across distance, united by results. It's not just a talk show anymore. It's proof, and it ends on purpose.